What's up guys, Chris Burandt, finally getting a chance to give you the review on the new 2020 Khaos RMK. Lots of excitement, lots of questions. So what I've done, I'm going to try to keep this as short as I can, but try to cover a bunch of information. A lot of questions on our social media feed of, what is the Khaos all about? So basically, went through all the questions, picked the top 5 that most people have been asking. So I'm going to jump right in and start telling you guys what's up with this new sled. So let's start with what is the difference between a Khaos and a Pro RMK. There was a little bit of a misconception early when the sled was released that all it was a Pro RMK with upgraded shocks and new graphics. That is not the case. What separates a Khaos from the Pro RMK, yes, it does have upgraded shocks. It is running Walker Evans' new Velocity Series shocks, which is definitely a substantial upgrade over the standard monotubes and or clicker shocks you've been running on your Pros in the past. But the big change is in the rear suspension. So geometry-wise, this sled is different with a different rail profile. The rails are actually tipped up in the front. It has a longer limiter strap and also longer front track shock. So those are the big differences between a Pro RMK and the Khaos RMK. So let's dive into the questions. So with that being said, this question, why the Khaos over the Pro? And what does the suspension slash geometry changes do for the rider? So that's where we start seeing the big difference between what Khaos does and what a Pro does. So as we have the different rail profile, longer limiter strap and longer front track shock, what that's doing is that's taking ski pressure off of the sled. So when you take ski pressure off of the sled, there's a fine balance there. What you'll feel instantly when you ride a Khaos versus a Pro is when you jump on the sled in the neutral position and you go to do a turn, like a powder turn or go to initiate to get on the side hill, it is substantially easier because again, we have less ski pressure. So that's an instant feel, and that's something, we've gotten the opportunity to get a lot of riders, whether they're riding a current Pro or even other brand riders, as soon as they get on a Khaos, that's what they say, man, it's so easy to initiate and get up on edge. That was the main goal of this sled, to make it more playful, more fun, easier to initiate. So that's the first thing you will feel, first and foremost, is just how easy it is to get up on edge, and then what I like about it is once you get it up on edge, with that front end feeling so light, it wants to stay on edge. And so, to be honest, this setup is very close to how I set my personal stuff up. For my lightweight builds and my personal sleds, I also have, so I run the Next Step carbon rails, and they have a more aggressive tip profile on them as well, essentially doing the same thing. I don't have the longer front track shock, but I do loosen my limiter strap as well, again giving me that light, fun feeling, and allowing my sled to initiate easier. And so, those are, I would say that is the biggest difference, is more fun feeling with the front end being lighter and enabling you to get on edge easier by quite a bit, honestly. So the next question, will I be choosing the Khaos or the Pro for my fleet of sleds here at Burandt's Backcountry Adventure? I got this question a lot. So the Khaos is only available in a 155. It comes in both a 2.6-inch track with the belt drive or 3-inch track with a chain case. For me personally, our ratio of 163s versus 155s, out of our 14 rental sleds, we usually have 8 163s and 6 155s. For me, it's no question, I will be replacing the 155s with the Khaos. For our goal of trying to get more riders comfortable with mountain riding, that's what we do here. We teach, we get all different levels of riders, but no matter what level of rider you are, whether you're a beginner mountain rider or an expert mountain rider, the Khaos for me and our agenda here, it's just easier to ride. For people who struggle with getting on edge, And for people who don't maybe ride, the Chris Burandt terrain all the time, the Khaos is a perfect fit. It's just easier to ride. That's the one thing I have found. So I got the sled in March. So we were just in that transition from riding in, dry powder into more setup based snow, but a good foot and a half of powder on top. And the effort it takes to ride Khaos over Pro is substantially less. And so for my fleet for next year, we're going to be swapping out Khaoses for Pros because the sled feels awesome. Okay, so does it wheelie too much for technical tree riding? This is a very sensitive question. It depends on the rider. For me, this is how I set up my sleds personally. So I like that fun feeling. And anytime I can make my sled easier to ride, that's less effort, that's more enjoyment for me. So, I've also seen the question, I'm thinking about snow checking a 163, but this new Khaos 155 has me excited. It all comes down to what you're looking to do on the hill. I like to think of it as a ratio. So if you spend, let's use me for an example. I like spending a lot of time in that tight, steep, technical terrain. For me, I prefer a 163, right? But for guys who are, let's just say I'm 80% in the technical terrain, 20% in the more meadow style riding, right? Not as steep trees, meadow bashing, doing about 1 million powder turns, right? That's where the Khaos fits in perfectly. However, this is a really bold statement. I believe 70 to 80% of the people right now who are riding Pro RMKs would benefit from riding a Khaos. And that's not just to sell a Khaos. I'm just telling you that because the sled is easier to ride. It's easier to initiate, and all of the things that were changed to make the sled do that did not affect me as much as I thought they were going to do when I took it into the steeper, gnarlier stuff. Does it go like a 163? Of course not. Does it go like a 155 Pro in the steep terrain? So that's a tough question. I would say no, right? The 155 Pro is still going to keep the front end down a little more and go forward, but the Khaos really surprised me how capable it was with the changes. Yes, if you go slow into a steep, deep pocket, the front end is going to lift. That's what it's supposed to do. Again, I like that feel. I can ride it. I'm an aggressive rider to do that. So, but again, think of the riding that you do 80% of the time. What are you doing 80% of the time? Do you want something more fun feeling, initiating, easier? Maybe. Or do you want to get the job done, front end down, more planted feel, stability when you're in that more technical stuff? Maybe your sled is a Pro. That's something I can't answer for you. That's something that you need to decide and figure out what sled is the best tool for the job. It's very simple. So that addresses, does it wheelie too much for technical tree ride? For me, no. That's how I set my stuff up. I've been super impressed with how it still has that light feel, but it's still an RMK. And that's what's so awesome about this chassis is the RMK, it does an amazing job of getting on top of the snow. So my answer is I like the geometry of this. This is why I build my sleds to feel really close to this. Next question is, where will this sled be an advantage and or a disadvantage of the Pro? Kind of covered this in the last one. Obviously the advantages are in terrain where you're initiating on edge a lot. This sled is by far easier than a Pro RMK. The Pro RMK is very stable feeling, which takes a little bit more effort to get up on edge. But once you are on edge with the Pro, I mean, it's amazing how that stability transfers into confidence going across the hill. With the Khaos, it gets up on edge easier than the Pro, but you know, it is a lighter feeling in the front when you're going across on edge. You have to spend a little bit more time, pay a little bit more attention to front end control. So that's something that when I ride, that's something that we teach a lot as well, is keeping that front end, you know, down versus up so you're not washing out. A couple more advantages on the Khaos is obviously you're getting upgraded shocks. That's good. But again, you know, I think what's so cool with this sled is it hits a broader range of riders. It hits the riders that are up in the UP or up in Maine or up in Quebec, where you guys have you still have really fun, cool terrain, but maybe you don't have the big, you know, 2,000 foot type of elevation stuff like we do out here out west. I think that this sled is going to be amazing for you Midwest and East Coast guys who are looking to expand your off-trail capabilities. But also, you know, looking out west here, you don't ride the technical gnarly stuff all the time. And so again, anything to make the rest of the day feel easier, I think that's a bonus, that's an advantage. And so again, figure out what terrain you ride the most and ask yourself, do I want something that initiates easier and is basically lighter feeling on the front, or do I like the feeling of the stability of the Pro chassis? And then, okay, so let's wrap it up with the big question that I've been getting a lot. What will I be riding? What will I be building next year? A new Khaos or a Pro? So, you know, I've seen a lot of, well, why don't you just put a 163 on a 55 Khaos and you're done, you're good to go. Well, for one, the changes in the geometry on the skid, a lot of it is with the rail. So if you put just a standard RMK rail in here, that will not give you as many of the benefits that you will see with the rail profile now. Me personally, I look at the ratio just like I asked you to. I look at the ratio of what is my agenda on the hill and what's the best tool for the job. For me, it's the Pro RMK. Right, I'm going to ride a 163 Pro, and then I'm going to do a couple things to make it feel like a Khaos. And so a lot of you guys are asking, well, why don't you just ride a 163 Khaos? A couple things. I like the lightweight of the Pro, so there's a couple other things. So aluminum overstructure, aluminum bumpers on the Khaos versus the Pro. And again, I love building mod sleds. That's just something that I enjoy doing. And so I am going to be running the Next Tech rails with a little steeper profile to give me that feel of the Khaos. But again, my use demand, I want to go up. That's what I want to do. So I will be riding a 63 Pro. But again, this is my personal opinion. Those 70 to 80% of the people out there will have more enjoyment out of this because of how easy it is to ride versus the Pro. And you know, that's not to belittle or say anything bad about the Pro RMK. I just love the feel of this, and I think more people, and I see it. Every single person I put on the Khaos after they've been riding the Pro all day, they say, wow, this is easier. And that's it. And it is an easier sled to ride. And you know, for me, riding 120 or how many ever days I ride a year, anything I can do to make my sled easier to ride, that's why I do all the fun mods on my stuff, is to make it easier. Well, now it's pretty cool. Polaris from the factory comes and makes one that is ridiculously easy. So I hope that answers a bunch of your questions. Feel free to leave additional questions down in the comments below, and I'll do my best to answer them. In the end, you can't go wrong with either one. The Khaos is a new, fun feeling, easy to initiate, light, wickedly good performing sled with the 850, bar none. However, you guys who like pushing your stuff and getting into that really steep technical stuff, of course you're still a pro guy. I mean, I'm a pro guy, right? But I love the feel of the Khaos. So hope that answers your questions. Feel free to hit me up on any of my social media channels, Instagram, Facebook, or you can always shoot me an email at chrisburandt.com. Thanks, guys.